Hey there, Ubers. Welcome back to Matted Screen Media Reviews. I'm Matt. I will be hosting your segment today on Scream Factory's awesome release of Manhunter. That's right, I haven't even broken the seal on the envelope. What makes this one such a big release for me? It's one of my favorite books. I've read this thing cover to cover a lot. I can't even come up with an arbitrary number that can suggest how many times I've read this. I read it before I saw Silence of the Lambs. I read it before I read the book Silence of the Lambs. I read it again before the TV show even started. So yeah, that's at least 3. You probably can add at least 3 or 4 more times after that. Now the movie Manhunter, while an imperfect adaptation, it is the coolest adaptation of this novel. On top of, I just like that they got the characters better in this compared to Red Dragon. Honestly, the less said about that movie, in my opinion, the better. The other reason I also love this movie is it's a bit of a Michael Mann enigma of sorts. Like so many of his films as they came out on home video, there are multiple cuts of the film in very subtle ways. You wouldn't call one cut a theatrical cut definitively and the other cut a definitive director's cut, because there's just really not. Each time something's been labeled the theatrical cut, something's been labeled the director's cut, each time it gets released, it's a little bit different. I also continue to own the amazing Anchor Bay DVD release from way long ago. I also have not 1, but 2 Laserdisc releases of this movie. But first, I gotta rip this sucker open and check it out. Let's see what we got in here. Yes, comes with the very beautiful poster artwork. That's just glorious right there. And we got the great release, still in its shrink wrap, of course. It's gonna take me a while to get to this. By the time you get this, it's gonna be a Monday morning. It's Friday now, but you'll get it on Monday because I'm gonna need the weekend to go through it all. With that, I better get watching this thing. Catch you guys in a little bit. Welcome back, Ubers. A couple days later, and an unfortunate shaving accident as well, I have finally finished Manhunter. This was a lot of fun digging through this set. Tons of extra material, as well as 2 cuts of the film. Very different from each other. The pacing between the director's cut as well as the theatrical version is totally different. Director's cut is obviously a little bit longer, a little more arty, I guess you could say, in some places. Ultimately, it is a better adaptation of the book. It hits on a lot of the key scenes better. The director's cut also deals with some of the scenes featuring Graham's downward mental slide as he becomes more and more empathetic towards Dollarhide, and frankly makes the idea of him becoming a killer like Dollarhide that much creepier. It really just is a cleaner movie. Unfortunately, all of the scenes that were shot for the director's cut, really they only exist in standard definition now because all those elements are lost. Thankfully, we do have this director's cut version. It's just an imperfect presentation, as Scream Factory very nicely, I think, used the Blu-ray transfer of the theatrical cut and then interspliced the various director's cut scenes into it. If you want a unified presentation, they did also include the standard definition presentation of the director's cut alone without any of the high def upgrades to it. You can take your pick. I didn't really mind having quality differences fade in and out like that. Watching both versions pretty much back to back just reaffirmed my love for this movie. It's one that I revisit at least 2-3 times a year. Actually, I think after having dug through this set, I've watched it enough for 1 year. Might need to revisit it around Christmas if I need some respite from the holiday cheer. As far as the movie goes, I just really love its style. There's something about this movie that has that crazy 80s vibrancy to it. The color scheme, the clothing, the shooting style. Very early Michael Mann. It's nice to see him in action with this movie, and then you can kind of compare and contrast his later films like Last of the Mohicans, even though it's a wildly different movie, but also Heat or The Insider, for instance, and even Collateral to some extent. You can see where he pulled all of his different styles from, and Manhunter really does prove to be the prototype for Michael Mann and what he would become as an auteur and as a storyteller. I love the presentation of Graham for this movie. Up until the TV series, I thought it was the best one, simply because they nailed the essence of the book, that Graham is somebody who you should kind of fear. You're not really supposed to love this guy because of his extreme sensitivity. He's able to take on the personalities and perspectives of a killer, and he goes so deep with it that he risks in this, essentially becoming a killer himself. I like that you're supposed to fear Graham as much, if not more so, than Dollarhide, even though Dollarhide does kill families and Graham is dedicated to stopping him. You can at least read in the book the subtleties that it just takes a little push, and Graham is going to be right there with Dollarhide, and I thought they nailed that very, very well with this movie. Better in the director's cut than the theatrical cut, but no need to harp on that. I always enjoyed Brian Cox's Hannibal Lecter, even though they've curiously referred to him as Lector, O-R instead of E-R. He chews the scenery for what few scenes he's got. I just wish we could have had more Brian Cox. There's a part of me that really would have loved to have seen what he could have done with the Silence of the Lambs material, but that's obviously well established by Anthony Hopkins, and deservedly so, an incredible, iconic performance. I have always liked Tom Noonan as Dollarhide. He's this large and imposing figure who, at any given time, is this meek man afraid of other people, while at the same time, he's this massive potential energy who could just, you feel like he could rip somebody apart with his size. Obviously, they didn't do the iconic tattooing that other movies and the TV series did for Dollarhide, which is a shame, because I think that is in essence of the character, but I can see why back in 1986 why it wasn't used. Serial killer movies just weren't a thing yet, so it may have appeared too cartoonish, and I can forgive that, even though I wish they had kept the tattoo that they allude to in a lot of pictures and images. As far as this Blu-ray release from Scream Factory goes, it is very, very good. Do not get me wrong when I start talking about the technical merits here of the picture quality. Picture quality, I'm giving a 3 out of 5. It's still very good, but it is still the same transfer that was used for the old Fox MGM release that was featured in the 3-pack with Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal, and the standalone Blu-ray release. It still displays an awful lot of edge enhancement, which is kind of a shame because the image can just appear too crispy and crunchy. It doesn't have nice detailed layers to it. It also has a tendency for a very noisy grain field during night sequences, almost looking like insects are attacking the screen in places. Like I said, it's not terrible. It's still a vast upgrade over the standard definition presentation of any previous DVD or home video release. So I'm not going to knock it for that. But just knowing that a new, fresh 4K scan would have been amazing. I know it's not always in the cards. I can appreciate that, but I would love to see one. Audio quality, 5 out of 5. Absolutely love the new DTS HD 5.1 surround mix for this film. Just has so much more power and vibrancy. Sound effects don't sound quite so tinny and hollow in a lot of places, especially towards the end of the film during the big action sequence. Dialogue seems crisper, a little bit more natural sounding, keeps to the front, while the amazing music keeps to the sides and rear channels. All around, just a fabulous mix. I can't praise that one enough. Bonus features. This is where Shout Scream Factory win the day. While some of their releases are a little bit skimpy, other releases, they do the best they possibly can to bring you every piece of information that's ever been produced by a film, and then also produce new material. I'm just going to read off the list here because there's so much great stuff. Disc 1, you get new interviews with the director of photography, Dante Spinati. William Peterson, Tom Noonan, Joan Allen also participate. You have an incredible segment of interviews with all the different musicians and composers that contributed songs and music to this amazing film. Then you have a commentary track from Michael Mann himself, which, I'll be honest, it's a little meandering. He goes in and out a lot of the times. There doesn't seem to be a lot of focus in some places, and in other places he's like analyzing every little microscopic detail to the finest little point. It's still a very good commentary track, even though there are, like I mentioned, multiple points where he just doesn't say anything. You do learn a lot from the man, and so anytime you can sit down and listen to a Michael Mann commentary, it's a good day for if you're a film buff. I'm not gonna lie. On top of that, you get all the old archive extra features that were featured on the Anchor Bay set, almost rendering this set moot. I'm not gonna get rid of it, but if you do have this and you're eager for an upgrade and you don't want to keep this one on your shelf, I would say this is a good replacement. That said, I'm still gonna keep them both because I'm a completionist in this case. That's basically all I have for you on Scream Factory's release of Manhunter. It's an incredible set, features fantastic audio, pretty good picture quality, but the extra features is what really brings this home. It's not going to get any better than this, folks. Honestly, it's a 4 out of 5 release on my book. The only thing that would tip it over to a full 5 out of 5 is if they were able to actually go back and remaster the picture one more time. But that's unfortunately not very likely to happen anytime soon. So that said, this one is highly recommended. I encourage you to pick it up as soon as you can. If you haven't already pre-ordered it, do so. It's well worth it. Until next time, keep your media physical, and remember to keep super glue away from your naughty bits. You don't want that to go wrong.